Continuation to what we started off yesterday, we're learning the first Hayusafa from the Sefer. We started off on page Tov of Vov, and now we're up to page Tov Ches. Tov Ches is actually one of the years of the Kates that it says in Zoyar, Herajri, made a Ketz. Okay, now we're learning about how that Yidden are going to Eretz Yisrael, and they started in Medina, and even if they won wars, with this, the Gula does not start. So now we're learning the Rebbe's letters the way they are, copy-paste from all the different places. Earlier in the Sefer, in Siman Yud Aleph, is where all these different times that Rebbe spoke about it are all Meshulav, put together, combined and congealed in one binyan. But let's learn over here. Base. We're up to letter base. Base. Be'inin ha'me'irois be'eretz ha'kodesh b'yom me'ele or be'signin the mitzvah the mar medayik bo. There is a Rav that was very into the mitzvah of tzitzis. So the Rebbe wrote to him into the mitzvah of chelis and tzitzis. So the Rebbe told him, "You're asking me what's my opinion on what's happening now in Eretz Yisrael regarding the 6-day war, the winning of the war. What is the state of what does it have to do with the Gula? What's the halachic status?" So the Rebbe answers him in the style of the mitzvah that you're into of tzitzis. That tcheles, there's a halacha, that tcheles is a specific color. And the guy's going to take a similar color that looks like blue, and he's going to put it on his tzitzis and say this is tcheles. He's doing a very big aveda. So too, even though it looks like tcheles, but it's not tcheles, it's an aveda. So too, even if there's something that looks similar to the Geula, it looks similar to the redemption, but it's not the redemption, there's a very severe thing to say that this is redemption. Now let's see inside. Yiratzin. Let's see. Yiratzin. Sheyavchinu kol acheinu b'nei Yisrael. Asher kol le'ilon einei tcheles. Hashem should help that all the Jewish people should realize that kol le'ilon, a similar color to the color of tzitzis, is not, the mitzvah is not tchelis. Even though the color of kol le'ilon looks similar to the color of tchelis, but nevertheless, it's not tchelis. And no one should go hang this similar color of blue to his tzitzis and say, "Oh, I have tchelis." Should take it from me ad Eiver Olav. Right away, someone's Eiver on a Aved of Olav. He's Eiver on a Aved. He's Eiver on a mitzvah sasei. He's Eiver. The Teisvis dimmer amas chalashatila, Baba Mitzvah samachalav aben beis, like Teisvis says in Baba Mitzvah. The Eiver al mitzvah tzitzis. And he's even from the second that he hangs on this color, this similar blue color to his clothes. Says the Rebbe, so too, regarding now the matzah of Eretz Yisrael, maybe there's miracles, if there is Yidden being saved, maybe Alukut, but this is not Geula. And what is Geula? What is redemption? The Rambam paskins clearly in the end of Perikei Aleph of Hilchos Malachim. What is the order? What is the Geula? He says, what's the style? What's the way? What's the way the Geula? The period of exile is going to finish, and the beginning of the period of the redemption is going to start. What is Golus? What is Geula? What does it mean Golus is finishing? What does it mean the Geula is starting? And the Al-Haseider, and he also says that this state of the Golus finishing and the Geula starting, which is a specific concept, okay, there's also an order how this will take place. What's the order? Sheyameid Melech mi beis David. A king will arise from the house of David, which he himself is toiling in Torah Chulu. Shebeksav Shebal Peh, Toigen Torah Shebeksav and Torah Shebal Peh. Ve'Yakev Kol Yisrael Leilach V'Olachazik Mitka. He will force all the Jewish people to go in the ways of Torah and strengthen its breaches. Which means he's not going to be like a democratic person, right? Like the Rebbe emphasized many times in other places. Here the Rebbe bolds the words Ve'Yakev. He will force. He will not ask the people their opinions. He won't care what other people say, which This is not the matzav in Eretz Yisrael. And Noach Omer, v'yilchem al-chames Hashem, he'll fight the wars of the Eibishter. And now the Rebbe adds in, v'gam azein adain vados, even when he fights the wars of the Eibishter, and he wins the wars, there is no certainty then that the Gula has started, that the Gula has finished and the Gula has started. They're saying this was when they won the 6-day war, and they got the Kaisel and whatever. So they said, this is the wars and this, and we're winning. The Rebbe says even then it's not Evados, even if we're in the wars of Hashem. And even the wars the Rebbe brings before that, there's a couple of things that need to happen before that. It needs to be done through Malach HaMashiach. It needs to make the didn't go in the ways of Torah mitzvahs, and then he has these wars. And even after these wars, there's no certainty. The Rebbe doesn't say that he's Mashiach. After all of this, he's successful in making all didn't go in the ways of Torah and mitzvahs, and he's successful and he wins his wars. He will actually build the Beis Hamikdash. No other person is going to do this, which means that Rebbe is coming to exclude. There's people that already were, we have all these, the Zionists and whatever they do, the Frum Zionists, they were already planning to build the Beis Hamikdash on their own without a Malach HaMashiach.
Really?
Yeah. And they brought a raya. It says in.
Let's say if we actually build a.
It says there's a medrash. It says Gemara, Yerushalmi. Yes, I'm almost sure it's a Yerushalmi. That in the days of Rabbi Yeshua ben Hananiah, the wicked Malchus was goyzer that they should build the Beis Hamikdash, and they were giving the Yid in Kesef and Zov, and they were preparing. They were looking like they were ready to build the Beis Hamikdash without a Malach HaMashiach. So they say, look, you don't need Malach HaMashiach, and also the Chinuch in the mitzvah tzaddik goes according to this medrash. But the Rambam clearly says twice, and this is the emphasis over here, that Tafke Malach HaMashiach will build the Beis Hamikdash, and no one else will build the Beis Hamikdash. V'kibetz nitcha Yisrael, and he will gather together all the Yid into Eretz Yisrael. Ki ad az adayin pezurim yehiyu. Because till then they will be spread out, which means there's an order over here. Even when he builds the Beis Hamikdash, the Gula has not finished. The Golus has not finished. The Gula hasn't started. Even after Mashiach builds the Beis Hamikdash, why? Because till then the Yidden will be spread out, which means the period of all the Yidden being gathered together and coming to Eretz Yisrael is when? After the Beis Hamikdash is built through Malach HaMashiach. So don't make people come to Eretz Yisrael now and say, with this the goal is starting. Why not? Because when is a period of Yidden going to Eretz Yisrael start? After the building of the Beis Hamikdash. Ki ad oz adayin bezurim yehu. Till then, all Yidden will be spread out. And then, Mashiach b'vadei. Only then, that is Mashiach. That is when the Gula starts. That's when he is Mashiach. Which means, even if there's things that look similar to Gula, v'chulu, and winning wars, that's not Gula. What is Gula? All the Yidden being in Eretz Yisrael, after that they were spread out all over the world, which this will happen after that he builds the Beis Hamikdash. Before that, the Beis Hamikdash will be built through Malach HaMashiach, and before the Beis Hamikdash is built, Mashiach needs to win over the wars, and he himself needs to win all the wars. And before that, he needs to force all Yidden to go in the ways of Torah and mitzvahs. So there's nothing, none of this. So there's no Gula, no Ischalta de Gula, no nothing. Fighting again. The Rebbe continues, there's absolutely not one poisik that disagrees with the Rambam in this order and in this, the things that he needs to do. And this that you find in different Mefarshim of Tanakh, which the Rebbe is hinting to, the Rebbe is bringing you the Ramban. The Ramban writes, there's a Pirish B'Yuchas to the Ramban, that all the Yidden will go to Eretz Yisrael with the help of the Goyim before the Geula, and this the Geula is going to start. There's a whole Pirish of the Ramban, and the Geula is going to happen very slowly, but that Chateva Perishin Ha'umais with the permission from the nations of the world. So they say, oh, they're making the UN with the permission of the government, going to Israel and making their state. This is the beginning of the Gula. This is not the Shito of the Rambam. It's not the Shita of Allah. So even though there's Mefarshei Tanakh that explain in such a way, says the Rebbe is v'dugmas haroitze lahadchil gedushas Shabbos min habayker v'ad habayker. This is just like someone that would want to start Shabbos from when? From Shabbos morning. Shabbos night, you come outside after Kabbalah Shabbos, you're on the way to go home to make Kiddush, and you see a Rav with a white beard driving a car and smoking a cigarette. Why? He's going to tell you why. Came in Rashbam. Why? Because the Ramban, which was one of the Mefarshim, the Rashbam, which was a Pesach, says that this is when Shabbos starts. So the guy's going to say, okay, I'm going to start Shabbos like the Rashbam. Well, what's the din of such a person? The person is Chayv Skila, which means it has no, in the world of halacha, in the way there's no practical actions according to this. Yes, there's such a mafarish, but this is not the way we act. So too, regarding the Geula, what do you need to go by? You need to go by the Pesach that the Paskins in the Yonim of the Geula, which is the Rambam, and you can't go according to any other Mefarish, even though yes, you have Mefarish, but this is Chilul Shabbos. That's what it is. It's like putting on Stamab your Oiver on the Isra of Chelis. You're just taking some string and hanging it on your thing and saying it's Chelis. The Rebbe continues the next point. Pashut. That Rambam Yoda Ma'amer Azal B'Shugis B'Shech B'Sanhedrin. It's simple. The Mashiach knew. The Babari Chazal that speak about Mashiach and Mesach Sanhedrin. The Yerushalmi. The Rambam knew what it says in Yerushalmi in the beginning of Mesachas Brachas. It says over there that the Gula is going to come slowly. Kima Kayelas HaShachar. Like we're going to see. I'll just say what it is. It says that two Tanaim were walking and they saw. There is, before Alois HaShachar, there is a earlier state called Ayelas HaShachar. They were walking, your lightsaber was middle of the night, and then all of a sudden the sky turns into changes a little, very dark blue. And then you have Alois HaShachar, it gets even a lighter blue. And then it gets more and more, and you have Mishayakir, Ben Cheles Lalavan, which means if there's enough light, you can differentiate between your blue string on your tzitzis to the white, and then Snei Tzachamo, and then till there is Chatzai Sayon. So he said, this is the same way the Gula is going to come with the Yidden. The Gula is not going to come like this in one shot. It's going to come very slowly.
That's the Shita.
This is the Shita, the Yerushalmi that the Rebbe is excluding, which the Rambam does not hold like this. But they. So I'll explain it in a second. What's this opinion saying? In other words, what is he saying? Kach hi geulasen shel Yisrael kima kayelas hashachar. They're saying it's night, it's dark, but there's a little of light. The Gula starts off a little bit. And then it's still dark and light. There's more light when it's still dark. Until it goes slowly by slowly. There's a mishmash of day and night. There's a mishmash of Golus and Geula. The light is going on the Geula, the darkness is going on Golus. Don't think that the switch from night to day, from Golus to Geula, is like this. No, it's gradual. It happens slowly. Yeah, exactly. Now the Rambam says, what does the Rambam say? Even though the way we're going to get to the Geula is gradual, is in Shlavim, but according to the Rambam, it is called Golus. It's called the night till He's Makabetz Nidchei Yisrael till he does the last life. He says he's not Mashiach. This is what the Rebbe emphasizes. Even if he's Hoyge B'Torah Mitzvahs, and he forces Yidden to go in the ways of Torah and Mitzvahs, and he fights the wars with Abishai and he wins the wars, and he builds the Beis Hamikdash, and he builds the Beis Hamikdash. The Rebbe doesn't say he's Mashiach. The Rebbe says he's still not. Doesn't say he's Mashiach Vadai. It's still considered. What does it mean? You don't know that the Golus. It's Golus. If it's Gola,
so there can be a state of Golus, but even the
so according
is
Golus, exactly. That's what we spoke about yesterday. Also, this is what the Rambam emphasized. The Rambam says clearly, even if he builds a Beis Hamikdash, he's not Mashiach B'Vadai. Only after the Yekabetz Nidchei Yisrael, only then he's Mashiach B'Vadai. Raif. Yes, we spoke about that yesterday also. Which means, according to the Rambam, the switch of Golus to Geula is Kahedafayim. Even though to get to the Geula is in stages, but that Hateva gradual.
At one point there's a
but once he brings the Yidden, once he brings the number, let's say you have 1 million, you have 20 million Yidden, so Roiv is what, 11, let's say, 10 another, whatever it is. So once he gets that last Yid, once you have a Roiv, you could do Shemitah V'Yovel. That makes the switch in Mashiach Vadai, and it makes the switch in a second.
Switch from
Golus to Gola
and Mashiach status.
Exactly. It's not.
So we're saying.
So what are they saying?
Mashiach status. Once Mashiach Vadai, then it's.
It goes together. Once he brings the Gola, so you know that he's for sure Mashiach. He proved that he's Mashiach.
So you can have a Beis Hamikdash and still be Golus.
Exactly. The Rebbe writes this clearly, and it's Posh the Rambam also, but the Rebbe writes this clearly. The Rambam doesn't say. The Rambam doesn't say anything. He builds a base. He wins the wars. That's not that. This Ma'amar Chazal in Ben Elamazal Beis Mashiach L'Shem L'Machas B'Vad is regarding. It's coming to emphasize. Don't think that there's going to be miracles in the Geula. There won't be a change in the world, miracles in the world. The only change in the world that's going to be. L'Shem L'Machas B'Vad. He doesn't need to build a Beis Hamikdash also. Maybe he doesn't need to do anything. No, that's not what it means. You're saying mitzvah the teva. There's a machlokes in the Gemara if there's going to be miracles or not. So the way the Gemara explains the two opinions it uses to you hold that ain't. So Shmuel says ain't ben elam hazil meisam Mashiach el shibud malchus bolvad. But he's not saying in this differentiates the difference between Golus and Geula. The Rambam doesn't mention anything over here. That it doesn't make that the Tanai. Adarabah, the Rambam writes that in the beginning of Perek Yud Aleph of Hilchos Malachim, where the Rambam says what is Mashiach, he says Hamalach HaMashiach Asid Lahamid, like he says in Allah Chadav, Yamin Malach Bebeis David, L'Hachz Malchus Beis David Leishon Moshe Rishayno, Ubeina Hamikdash U'Mekabetz Nidchei Yisrael. And Allah Chadav, where he says the Simonim, he says he's going to fight the wars and win the wars, and he's going to build the Beis Hamikdash and take care of that Yisrael. Why in the beginning of the Perek he doesn't mention fighting wars and winning wars? Why doesn't he mention it? So the Rebbe explains, because there the Rambam is coming to tell you what is Mashiach. Winning wars, not that. That's not Mashiach. He says that's a side thing. To get to Mashiach, to build the Beis Hamikdash, to bring heaven to Eretz Yisrael, you have to get rid of that anyways. It's a double study. It's a side thing. Some things in the way. I need to get to there, so throw them out of my way. Stop bothering me, But not, because you threw them out of the way, now he's Mashiach. But Chalal not. That's not what makes Mashiach Mashiach. That's not what makes him Mashiach. It's a term, the way of the Gemara.
Mashiach has to do all these things. It's either
right.
all or nothing.
Exactly. So to make a Mashiach Vadai, to make it the end of Golus, beginning of the Geula, it's only after that. They say the Zionists say we're in Golus. It's a night, but you can have light. You can have a beginning of the Geula at the same time. The Geula, he says, what do you mean? The Geula itself is not here. Yeah, the Geula Shleim is not here, whatever. That's going to happen later when Mashiach shows up. But we have, meanwhile, a Ischal to the Geula, a beginning of the Geula. The beginning, the Geula is starting to light, to shine. So the Rebbe emphasizes over here, when does the Geula start? According to the Rambam, there's no mishmash of night and day together. There's no aliyah. It's night and day. That's it. There's no gray. There's black and white. There's no gray. That's one thing. Also, the Rebbe is emphasizing. The Rebbe we said yesterday we're going to see in the letters over here. There's different nukudis. The Rebbe has I put over 30 different diyukim. In why? So first of all, there's day and night. Number one. Also, who makes this difference of day and night? Like the Rebbe is saying here, it's Melech HaMashiach makes this different of day and night. Not no one. Not some organization. Like the Rebbe emphasizes in a different letter. The Rebbe says Yamud Melech Mibeis David. So many times when the Rebbe brought the Rambam, the Rebbe would say Yamud Ish. Yamud Ish. Ish is going to get up. So the Rebbe explained in the words Yamud Ish, there's two diyukim. Why the Rebbe says Yamud Ish? Number one, because the Rebbe is saying he's not a Melech Al Pi Din. He's not a Melech, so he says Yamud Ish. And another thing the Rebbe says, he's a Ish. Mashiach is a person. It's not some movement, some Zionist movement that it's not some organ. It's not a Tnuah. It's not some Ruchanistic spiritual. It's a physical person that he's Melech HaMashiach, a Basar V'Dam, and a Shabbat B'Guf, somebody you can see with your eyes, somebody you can touch him, whatever. Even if he's somewhere that you can't see him now. What's if you live in Australia, so you can't see him? Say that, but doesn't mean that he's not a person, that he's not a Shabbat B'Guf, that he's not a mensch. For them, there's no mensch, there's no Mashiach, there's no nothing. Mashiach will come. Everything needs to be done through Mashiach. There's an order to get up to the redemption state. There's an order, like the Rebbe is saying over there. There's a whole bunch of things that needs to get done. It needs to be done through this person. And there's a difference between day and so Yomais Mashiach is a whole other thing. You asked me the question, I didn't even get to answering it. Yomais Mashiach and Ischalta de Gula is two separate things. Yomais Mashiach means the days of Mashiach, the days when there's a Melech HaMashiach in the world. Yomais Mashiach start from Yamid Melech Be'etzem. That's when Yomais Mashiach really starts. When the King Melech HaMashiach stands up, that's when Yomais Mashiach starts. When does Ischal to the Geula? When does the Geula start? That's Chalas HaGeula. That's after Kibbutz Golgius. That's when the time of the Geula starts. So let's see again. Pashut Aramam Yod. I wanted to explain the Yerushalmi. Pashut, it's simple. The Rambam Yod Amar Merazal Besugis Mashiach Shebesanhedrin. The Yerushalmi v'chulu. Abakol Zeh Poisek Adin Badur Kanal. He knew the Maimar Chazal, and nevertheless he paskins clearly when is his chal to the Gula.
By the way, can this shir be in the schus for Shleima of Shnei Zalman Ben Sarah?
Yes, this shir is l'schus Shnei Zalman Ben Sarah for Shleima Koreva. Take of Miyad Mamish B'Soichel Al Yisrael. And all the Yidden, that anyone that needs a refuah should have a refuah shleima kreva takes miyad mamish, and the whole world should have one big refuah with the kula mitzvah shleima takes miyad mamish. This is the whole purpose.
What about anavim higia zman gulasim?
So that's something else. It is higia zman gulasim. It's not the higia hagula, higia zman gulasim. And like even the Mefarshim say, it's the time when the gula is meant to come in that time. It's time for the gula to come. Then there's another thing, like we started saying yesterday, that Geula, you see, I can already make this point. Geula is what we said over here. The Beis HaMikdash built all the Eden and Eretz, so that's Geula. Until then, we're in Golus. So if the Rebbe is saying the Geula is here, or whatever, Al Derech Zeh, the Rebbe is not saying. It's obviously not referring to this Geula. You can't just say, okay, so the Geula is here, the Beis HaMikdash is built, we're in Eretz Yisrael, and we don't know about it. Because that's not the point. The whole point of Geula is that we should do all the Taryag mitzvahs. That we should see the Geula. Not only our eyes will see the Eibishter, but our physical basar will see the Geula. So, as long as... now, another important Nakuta. I was speaking with someone contacted me from these Neshot HaGeula. They call themselves the whatever. So I call them Neshot HaGalut. And like the Rebbe says many times, that everything in the end reveals its real face. And whatever, Rahman al all these people that said it's a Moshe Mashiach and you don't need a fast and blah blah blah, they fried out and they don't keep Torah and mitzvahs machlal, nothing. Like, and it just shows this is farketed from the whole Indian of Geula, where the Rebbe is emphasizing is that it's shleimus Torah and mitzvahs. That it's a completion. It's the Rebbe writes this clearly. Other places we'll see later on. How do you know if something has to do with the Gula or not? Gula is Torah and mitzvahs. Anything that's machazik Torah and mitzvahs, that's Gula. It's connected to the Gula. It's achad. Anything not, it's not Gula. It's not the Mashiach. That's why the Rambam says, why do we know that Christianity, why the Yoshka is not the Mashiach, or it's nothing to do with the Mashiach? It's not even a Hava Amina, but the Rambam is much of explaining. He says this guy not only didn't do what Mashiach is meant to do, he said whatever Mashiach is meant to do. He was changed Torah and mitzvahs. So this is the Evan HaBoichin. What is adding in Torah and mitzvahs? What's taking away from Torah and mitzvahs? Someone asked the Rebbe, we'll see later on a letter in the Simon, is the Medina, like we mentioned this yesterday, is Eretz Yisrael, is it at least a preparation for the Gula? It's not a schal to the Gula, but is it at least some type of achana for the Gula? So the Rebbe says, Oichet nishkein achana. Why? Because the poil, what do we see? Like the matzah of all of this, it wasn't moisif in Torah and mitzvahs, it took away, it says nishtafilu achana. If something is going to add kiyum Torah and mitzvahs, then you know that it has to do with the Gula. So all of this, you can see clearly, with time, all these guys went off the derech totally. What Gula, what's Dreit Menakop. But not only that, so one of these people spoke to me, whoever was texting me, and he said, the Gula is here, everything is here, blah, blah, blah. So I told him, I can show you in the Rebbe Sichos that it's not. What do we, like, what he's saying of it, what is Gula? Until then, it's not. So they told me, okay, so you want to bring rice from the Rebbe's Torah? The Rebbe says, I want to bring rice only from the Aleph and base. Don't bring me rice from before the Aleph and base. Which, first of all, one of the Yanim of Mashiach is that Torah is forever. Like the Rambam writes, that Torah is like this is, Mashiach is not coming to delete Torah and mitzvahs over, like delete years before the Aleph, which is stam baloney. But besides for that, if it's, I said, what, in an Aleph and an base, after the Rebbe said, do whatever you can to bring Mashiach. And the Rebbe said, everyone should learn about Mashiach. What was the first thing the Rebbe did? The Rebbe gave out a booklet with his sichos that he said when did he say these sichos? In Tavshin Mem, in Tavshin Lamed, in Tavshin Mem Vav, in years before, Tavshin Mem Zayin. And the Rebbe gave his sichos on the Rambam. On Hilchas Malach HaMashiach, you should know what is Mashiach. Al Pi Halacha, before, like the Rebbe is saying, in other words, before we take off now, this is my Egin Hagish in my words, before we take off now and start flying, in all the Yonim of Gula and Mashiach, first of all, don't make a challenge. No, the Rebbe, Nun Aleph, I said, the booklet the Rebbe gave out is more than Aleph and Beis, more than the Sechs the Rebbe said in Nun Aleph and Beis. Why? I was in someone's house. This guy doesn't have his Nun Aleph and Beis in his Sfarim Shafar, Rahman al-Itzlan. But he has it Dvar Malchus that the Rebbe gave him personally. The Rebbe gave these sichos to every single person, to every baby, to every whatever, and which shows that this is the Aleph base. Okay, this is what you need to know. This is the. But you need to know what things are, pashta pshat, and after that you can go deeper and deeper. And so I'm saying there's Gul al Pi Chassidus, Gul al Pi Kabbalah, Gul al Pi this. There's a Geschmack of art I saw from a Sefer, and the Friedrich Rebbe says it also, if I'm 99% sure, that in the Olam above our Olam, the Gul already came, and Mashiach's already here, and they're already dancing and singing, and they're already eating the Sudas of Yosin and Sherabar v'cholu v'cholu. And if in the world above our world, there's Atzilus, Bri, Tzira, Asir, there's all much of worlds. The world right above us, the Gula was already nimshach into the world right above us.
How is that possible?
And if we just lift up our heads, there's going to be Nosi Yes Roish, we're already going to be able to live in the Matziv Mamish of Guli Meisa Mashiach v'cholu v'cholu. There's Meisa, and like the Rebbe brings similar over here, that in front of it Ashbi, the Beis HaMikdash wasn't destroyed. He was living Mamish like in the Gula. Or like the Rebbe says for a Mendel or a Docker, that someone blew a shofar and he said Mashiach came. So he went outside of his room and he smelled the ear, and he said, Mashiach's not here yet. And then he went back into his room. So the Rebbe asks, he couldn't sit in his room and say, Mashiach's not here. Why does he have to go outside of his room to smell the ear and say Mashiach isn't here yet? Because in his room, Mashiach was there already. Mashiach was here in his room. So in order to see if Mashiach actually came, he needed to go outside of his room to see what's happening outside. Is the Gula here outside? Once he saw the Gula wasn't there outside, that he knew that Mashiach wasn't here. So too, it could be, like the Rebbe is saying many times, the Gula is here, and we're in the Gula Bapashtas and all of these in Yonim. This is referring to, it's not referring to what we're speaking about over here. It's referring to the Oira Gula, and like that when the Rebbe said the Gula is already here, but Pasha, the Rebbe said right after that, what does he mean that the Gula is here? That that Gula is Voloshin, Gilu, the Gilu of Alufa Shaloilim and Golas. You have the Aleph of the Ebish that in Golas. But this is, but here we're talking about Gula al Pi Alocha, Gula Bapashtas, Gula B'Maisa B'Poyel. Okay. Let's continue. Gimel, at least another letter or two. Let's see. L'chtovei de Qatar al dvar haseder shekoidem yeh nitzochen malach HaMashiach v'achar kach binin beis hamikdash v'achar kach kibbutz golus sherobu hal chilkim bedover. That was writing to a Rav. Some Rav writes to the Rebbe, this day you're writing to me that Malach HaMashiach needs to first win the wars, and after that build the beis hamikdash, and after that bring everyone to Eretz Yisrael. There's many people that disagree with this order. So the Rebbe answers him. After the Rambam wrote this order clearly in Hilchas Malachim Perikid Aleph, Upa'amayim, and the Rambam wrote this twice. This, that all the Mefarshim that are on the Rambam did not disagree with the Rambam. They were quiet.
If that was the question,
they hold just like the Rambam, like it's known, well known in the Kolalim of the Rambam. Who are these Mefarshim? Harayvit, Habeis Yosef, Haradvaz, v'chulu. Who are the Mefarshim that do not disagree with the Rambam? Which means they agree with the Rambam in the order.
I agree.
It's like them saying in this that they don't say I disagree means that I agree. This is what the Kol Rambam say. So they hold like the Rambam. So who holds this is the order? First of all, Mashiach winning the wars. After that, building the Beis Hamikdash. After that, taking that to Israel. The Rambam, the Ravid, the Beis Yosef, the Radvaz, v'chulu. Mihu asher Rav Guvrei Ilachlik B'Davar. Who is this Groise Rav that's bigger than all of these Gdolim to be chaylik on them and say otherwise? Ubavada asher lo yishtamit ila harambam v'chol mefarshav anal Maimer Chazal b'Yerushalmi ubasher asherim Rabba Yidui. Bavade, the other letter, the Rebbe wrote the same lashon. It's a certain thing that the Rambam did not miss, and all the Mefarshim of the Rambam that we just mentioned, the Ravid, the Beis Yosef, the Radvaz, the Kesef Mission, all these things, they did not miss all of these Ma'amar Chazal and Gemara Yerushalmi. If all of them missed it. All of them, none of them saw it, none of them could have write, oh, this is not the right order. And somewhere else it says the other way around. The way the Rambam is writing everything through it says, no one was chaylik with the Rambam. So even though you have Ma'amar Chazal, Yerushalmi, Shirashir Rabba, says the Rebbe, you can darshan it, all of them, and explain them, and make people pull them, go back and forth. Just like we're doing in the words of Beis Shammai. Beis Shammai, you can learn, you can make a shakel v'tarya, you could explain it. But when it comes to Payel Ma'amish, it's not a Mishnah. Act like Beis Shammai. Right? He says in the beginning of Baruch, it says, So he laid down when he said Shema, and then he got himself into a danger, and the Chachamim told him, "Kedai ha'yisalochov ba'atzmecha shavart al divrei Beis Hillel." You deserved it. He put himself in danger. You deserve it. You were over on divrei Beis Hillel. So yeah, you can learn divrei Beis Shammai, but payal mamish there's no static, no halachic, practical it's not applicable to Allah. So everyone knew, all the Maimonides Chazal, all the Mefarshim knew it, and no one missed it. It's Torah, but it's not Negei L'Maisen. That's not worth anything in Olam HaMaisen, Olam HaLacha L'Maisen, to start acting accordingly and say this is a good. V'ha hazbara in quotations. Sheish Eimrim Sharamam Kaisim Sham Perikid Beis Sheshnam Dvarim Shem Esavik Kolu. The Rambam writes in Perikid Beis, in the next Perik, that there's certain things that we're not going to know how they're going to take place till it's going to happen. He says a person's not going to know how it's going to be. It's hidden things. Although the great Chacham have no Kabbalah, how in these things says the Rebbe, even though you have these things that are besafek. What is this going on? This is going on the specific things that he added in Perikid Beis of Hilchos Malachim in a different Perik. This is a totally different Perik, and he's talking about different things. Not he's not referring to you're not going to know how it's going to be till it happens, regarding what he says in a different Perik. In Perikid Aleph. There, the Rambam writes clearly the way it's going to take place. What are you going to say you don't know how it's going to be? If no one writes how it's going to be, whatever it doesn't say, you could say we don't know. But if the Rambam writes clearly how it's going to be, how can you say we don't know? How can you say there's a suffix? If the Rambam writes, he's pointed the suffix. If the Rambam says there's no suffix, the Rambam says clearly how it's going to be. So what are you telling me? And the Rambam writes it 2 times. Clearly the same order, so that's not referring to what he says in the Perikid Aleph, which means in Perikid Aleph he says clearly that it's going to be done through Malach HaMashiach, and he says this about him to know who's Malach HaMashiach, and when the Gul is going to start. All of this, there's no, don't tell me you can't know. That's not talking, he's not talking about you can't know about things that he says you could know. And he says twice. Alright, you get it, Smaim, Metchisa, Meis, and Perik Vav. Now look what the Rambam says, you get it, Tchisa, Meis, and Perik Vav. Which over there, the Rambam writes, what he said in Perikid Beis of Hilchos Malachim about that the God is Avim Kevis is a mashal v'chidah. The wolf will lie with the lamb is only a riddle and a parable. The Rambam says it's not necessarily a mashal. It can be that it's going to be kipshuti. What is that going on? What is he saying? It doesn't need to be the way he wrote it. Regarding these inyanim, if God is Avim Kavis, is literally, or a marshal, that you won't know. That is a suffix. But on things that he writes clearly, there's Varim Stumim. He says there's things that, if it's a Davar Shasim, so why is the Rambam writing clearly or order 2 times? Obviously, this is not a Davar Shasim. This is a Psak Din border. This is a clear Psak Din that this is the way the goal is going to come. Okay, the main thing is that we should be Zoiche, take it from Miyad Mamish, imminently. This second, that the Malach HaMashiach should come and build and be Manatzeach Kol Mishasrivov, and be Boina Amigdash, and be Mekabet Zidche Yisrael, U'Malach HaOretz, Deya Savaya, K'mayim L'Yom HaChasim. We want Mashiach now. Take from Miyad Mamish.